So today's speaker is Dr. Kat Cotter. She's been here with us, I think is it twice, Dr. Kat? 2 times you've been here with us? Once, just once. It feels like 2 times, so that's great. I'm ready for more. So just to tell you a little bit about Dr. Kat Cotter, she has devoted more than 40 years to the study of alternative medicine, especially as it pertains to healthy longevity. She is certified through the A4M as an anti-aging practitioner and was the director of the Lifespan Anti-Aging Center in Los Angeles. Awesome. She has helped create and chair many health-related conferences for those who want to take charge of their own health span and slow down the rate at which they are aging. And today she is speaking on the subject, and today she speaks on the subject and works one-on-one with clients both in person or by phone and email if they're not in the LA area. Today she's going to be talking to us about living the longevity lifestyle, new health span hacks to take charge of your longevity now. So I would like everyone to give a warm welcome for Dr. Kat Cotter.
So last week was my birthday, and I turned 62. But I tell everyone I'm 62 going on 26 because that's what I'm working on. And with a little help maybe from science, but I think most of it is from within us. So we may need a little help here and there, but it is all within us. And I started with that because last time I was here, I did my talk, and then at the very end, someone asked me, and I mentioned my age, and the whole room clapped. And I said, oh, maybe I should have started with that, led with that. So I just thought I'd lead with that this time. So, okay, so what we're doing today is talking about the super longevity lifestyle. And I know that I'm speaking to the choir here. I do know that. I know that much of what I say you may have already heard. You may already know. And a lot of you may think, oh, I know this stuff. But, I mean, look around. Look at who you are. So what I'm asking is if you can, anything that you do know, bear with me a little, because what I'm trying to do here today is kind of a little test. Before speaking about this subject at the RADFest, I would like to hone this down. I need to take 25 minutes and hone it down into 15 minutes or less, and I would like maybe some feedback at the end on what to leave in, what to leave out, based on, but you have to remember that this is for the average person, and unfortunately the average person, you are so many levels above that. So hopefully some of these things will at least be a reminder to you. Oh yeah, I did that before. I'm so busy I forgot that. I haven't been doing that. Or, oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so we will begin with 7 steps to living a super longevity lifestyle. And each of these I'm going to go into just a few minutes each. So the first one is staying current and proactive. So you heard the saying, ignorance is bliss. Well, ignorance is not bliss when it comes to your health and longevity, right? So just like the rest of the world is walking around in some kind of a zombie-like state as far as their entire life and what that means, you guys here are awake. You want to be completely awake when it comes to your health also. So if you're serious about living a long, healthy life, you need to stay apprised of the newest information out there. This means going to conferences like the RADFest, right? I've been going to conferences for almost 40 years. And the truth is, while I don't know everything, 80% of what I hear at every conference, I already know, just because I've been around for a while doing that. But I never sit there and think, oh, I already knew this, because it reminds me, and I always learn something new. But the most important part is talking to others, because you learn so much. You can't study and learn everything on your own. So you talk to a bunch of people, and so number one, getting to conferences like the RadFest. Also, there is so much information on the internet, right? You can find that something is good, and in the very next link, something is really bad. Good and bad. Oh, always do this, never do this. So I like to find some knowledgeable sources, and then that's where I try to get my information, and going forward. Now, the main reason you should attend conferences is connecting with the life extension community, the like-minded individuals, joining groups like yourself, but remember, I'm talking to other people there, explaining why it's so important to join a group like People Unlimited, looking for local meetup groups, talking to people. Now, the average person, you probably know this, the average person honestly does not believe they will live past 100. And isn't that so sad? It is the biggest tragedy in life, and they've done surveys. So you already know that you are part of a very elite group. What I want to say to others, if we have a huge crowd, is to say, you are sitting here surrounded, maybe for the first time in your life, by truly like-minded individuals, and this is a place where the open-ended lifespan is really becoming more probable every day in the average person's mind. You already knew it, but we're talking about getting that message to them. So now we're on number 3, longevity lifestyle denial. Because I've been around this space for 40 years, I've watched so many people that talk the talk, but they really don't walk the walk. I've heard them speaking, and then I go out to dinner with them. Or I've been watching them for years and think they are the guru of this particular health-related issue. And then I get to know them as a person, and I realize that, maybe they're not eating a dozen donuts and stowing the rest in their trunk. But the point I'm making is that you've probably seen things like this. Well, I haven't been eating that well lately. Yes, I know better, but I'm so busy. I've got a deadline. Or how about the person who tells you, I never eat grains. I don't eat grains. And you're out to dinner and they're lathering up the bread. I never eat bread, but you're eating it now. Well, because it's a special occasion. Now, I'm not saying to never eat dessert or bread. Just the point is this. If you're doing something or not doing something, be honest with yourself. So don't lie to yourself. Don't live in denial. And because we know that if someone truly believes they're only around for a short time, it's not going, the little tiny things won't matter as much. Oh, it's just a little bit of this, it's a little. But if you're planning to be around indefinitely, every little bit counts. Okay, so check it out. You say you want an open-ended lifespan. You want to be around forever. Remember that you are the gatekeeper. You, and only you, are in charge of what goes in your mouth, how much you exercise or don't. I like to think of it, if I want some chocolate cake, I know that's my inner child. So you have to be your own mother. Sometimes my inner child says, but just one, no, but no. But so every once in a while I have enough of a tantrum that the inner child might win out, but usually my inner mother does, So you can also think of it as, remember the angel and the devil on your shoulder? So the devil says, oh, how about if we do this? And the angel says, so let's just try to really walk the walk within our own lives. The fourth one is a longevity lifestyle is not disposable. When the average person hears that the plastic bottle they were using won't disintegrate for 1,000 years, or that all of this waste is going to leave a big mess for their children and children's children. Do they really care? I mean, they may to a point care what happens to mankind after they believe they're going to be gone, but I believe that if they really had the realization that they themselves would be around 1,000 years from now, and that they're not just leaving a mess, but they'd be living in it, I think we would have less litter, less pollution, less waste. So I think that a person who tells you they're really living a super longevity lifestyle, they are already doing so much more than the average person as far as recycling, as far as finding ways to contribute less. Maybe you can't close down this factory and you know, change the water in your city, but at least you can do your best and do your part. Autophagy and ways to promote it. I forgot this little part. I said, speaking of recycling, your body also does that. So I don't need to go into this because most people here already know about things like dasatinib and quercetin and fisetin and the different detox pathways and getting rid of senescent cells and damaged proteins and things like that. But just as a reminder, I just read something. They've been trying to figure out how many hours do you really need to fast to have autophagy. And while everyone differs, even the experts, it seems like 18 hours, some say 24 hours, but it seems like the sweet spot might be 36. And the reason they said that is they discovered during one of these research trials, they discovered that at 36 hours, autophagy went up about 300%. Then when they looked at 48 hours, they discovered that it had only gone up maybe another 7% or something. So what that means is you really don't need to go for days. It might be a good idea once in a while to do so if you're choosing that for other reasons. But what that means is if you ate dinner on a Thursday night and you went to Friday night, that's 24 hours. So if you just didn't eat on Friday, then Saturday, by the time you got up in the morning, there's 36 hours. And so there you go. Now, you might not want to eat right away because maybe autophagy is now going on. I might try to wait till the afternoon. Just eat as soon as you really feel like you need to. But just wanted to make a little note of that. Okay, number 5 is lessening your toxic load. The last time I was here, I talked about all kinds of ways that you could do that. And but if you think of your body as the vehicle or the house that carries you around, what if you didn't take out the trash for 100 years, right? So that is why I talked about how important it was to look at things like your shampoo, your body creams, your deodorants, your household cleaners. I used to think that I was taking pretty good care of myself. And one day a friend was over and saw my shampoo and said, "Ooh, you don't use organic?" And I said, "Well, no." And she said, "So that means that you get in the shower, the steam opens up all your pores, you pour on this shampoo loaded with 20 different chemicals, and then you don't just put it on your head, you rub it in." And I said, "Oh." So it's little things like that, things like your toothpaste. Women that get nail polish, right? Are you making sure that you use a 5 or an 8 or a 10? And if you don't know what that means, right? So a 5 means that it does not have the 5 really bad chemicals like formaldehyde and different things. So you can do your nails and do your makeup and not poison yourself in the process. We talked last time about turning your home into a wellness center, your own personal wellness resort. But I have a question. How many people actually went home after that and cleared out their cabinets, their pantry, their refrigerator, their cleaning supplies to begin really making their home their own wellness center? How many may have gone so far as to remove carpeting, which has all that off-gassing? So the point is, go home, look around you. Do you have a good water filtration system? Do you have a good air filtration system? These things, if you're going to be around a long time, every little bit. So what if you were given a car and you were told that you would have it for 1 year and you would trade it in at the end, okay? But what if you were given that same car and you were told that you had to keep that car for 100 years before you could turn it in? Might there be a little bit of a difference in how you take care of it? You may take very good care of your things, but the point is that if that car or the house you live in needs to last you 1,000 years, how would you take care of it? So when you're planning to be around 10,000 years from now, having your 10,000th birthday with all your close friends, by then, sure, science may have fixed it so that, you know, we rejuvenate daily, we go to sleep, we have a complete reset, but they're not there yet. So we need to do that for ourselves right now. We need to prepare for that. Number 6 is, I call it hacking your health span or do-it-yourself longevity. This whole section, the bottom line is this. I am not going to tell you the best diet, you know, because we have people that are vegans and they feel great. We have people that eat meat. We have people that are doing the plant paradox, Gundry's lectin avoidance. We have people that are doing keto. And the point is this, that because we've been learning so much more about the microbiome, the holobiome, what that really means for each person is that you not only are made up of trillions of inhabitants, but there is not one person, you know, when you think about the fingerprint being different for everyone, not one microbiome is the same as the next. So what I love about being around for a long time is that you've got time to do some biohacking, eliminate things, add things, change things, try things, and find out what works best for you. It is a good idea to get some saliva tests, blood tests, and things to, you know, pretty much just validate what you're doing. But now I've mentioned that a good way to begin, if you want to do a little biohacking, is no, I took a little moment, everyone knows, but remember, this is the average person out there. They may not know what the microbiome really is. Isn't it interesting that the number of genes in the microbes in your body are more than the number of genes that make you up, which means we are far less human than, you know, we are like a global village. So if you are eating for the trillions, you know how they say sometimes the pregnant woman, they say, oh, you're eating for 2 now, right? As if we were eating for 1 to begin with. No, we're eating for trillions. And if you do that, here's a couple of little tips. Switching potatoes for sweet potatoes. Solanine is, remember that potatoes are part of the nightshade family, so it's just a good idea. And you probably have heard of resistant starch, and sweet potato is a good resistant starch, along with taro, jicama, rutabaga, things like that. But another cool thing is if you cook your sweet potatoes and then you refrigerate them overnight, they're not sure exactly why, but it becomes more of a resistant starch. So cook up a few, keep them in your refrigerator. And for those who are eating rice, after it's refrigerated, it becomes more of a resistant starch also. So cook it up, but have it the next day. Eliminating peanuts and cashews. You don't have to. I just did because while I'm not really sure if the whole idea of, all of those lectins is really damaging my gut and causing intestinal permeation, leaky gut. I'm not sure, but every time I learn something new, if it makes sense to me, kombucha in place of soda. If you really love soda, at least try the kombucha. There's so many flavors, doesn't have many grams of sugar. Barley bread, I really like it. It's a certain brand. It's made from egg whites and almond flour. Trying riced cauliflower or the shirataki noodles, the konjac noodles, which is made from a root. So if you say, oh, I can't give up pasta, try that. So those are just a few little tips. And number 7 is don't get old. Old. And so my mom is 88 and 0 medications. She's in good health. There is nothing different mentally about her. And what I've done is I've tried to make sure, and she fought it at the beginning, I tried to make sure that she was on Facebook and Instagram and can text people. And the point is that if you ever hear yourself saying things like this, in my day, or when I was young, in the old days, in my time, right, my generation, if you say those things, you date yourself. You are not current. And so I have a 14-year-old niece. I also have a 21-year-old nephew. I check in with them periodically just to see, that I'm not out of the loop on anything. Stay in the loop. And even, like, my mom really did, she tried it and she said, I don't like this texting thing. I said, you'll learn to love it. You will do it. And now she texts me all the time. So, I think that may be one of the most important things, is to always stay ageless, whether it's another 10 years from now or 10,000 years from now, ageless. And also, that other, let's see, at the end here I said, don't allow yourself to start thinking that things are going downhill. Everyone complains, oh, the planet, oh, everything is really going to hell out there. As you probably already know, but we're talking about the average person, may not realize that things really are better. And here's a little graph that shows people living in extreme poverty, health, child mortality. These things over the last 200 years, it's been a complete uphill line on all of these. So things really are getting better. And that means 200 years from now, even better. And another 200. So we don't have to worry about, things getting worse. And the last thing I'll say is to intend for the best, but prepare for the worst. Meaning, you've heard of preppers out there. They prepare for earthquakes, floods, different things. And there's some people that are so unprepared, they could not be less prepared for anything. So the thing is, if you're planning to be around for a long time, you have a lot more of a chance to be in some kind of emergency, whether it's a natural disaster or a medical emergency. So with a show of hands, how many people, just as a one thing that could happen out there, how many people know the signs and symptoms of someone having a stroke? and exactly what to do in that exact moment if someone around you was suffering a medical emergency like that. If you don't, maybe you want to make a list, maybe you want to be prepared, you want to know exactly who you'll call beside 911, the hospital, because the thing is, while I plan on never, ever ceasing to exist, I know that sometimes I might need a little help, and so it's so much better to be prepared than not. And finally, don't worry, be happy. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, depressed, you're having a day where you're just not that happy, please always have, you people here, you already know this, but the average person out there, you need to have a kind of a happiness buddy that you can call, and they can remind you when you're down, they can remind you how wonderful life is and how exciting and all the exciting things coming ahead for us all. So I think that the two best anti-aging supplements, when someone said, oh, tell me a couple that are really good, really, really good to take. I used to say things like, oh, well, Life Extension Mix, it's got a lot in there. But the two definitely would be happiness and joy, and you should get a big dose of that every day. So, thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. So we have some time for Q&A. If you want to stay up here, that was amazing. Does anyone... Oh, Audrey, let me come over there.
Hi, Kat. Great to hear you. Couple of questions on the nutrition section. I haven't personally heard about resistant starches, so I'd love to know what the benefits of those are. And then also, I heard about rice, that right after you cook it, if you let it cool or something, a lot of bacteria can grow, and I wanted you to speak to that if you knew anything about that.
Okay. So anything will have bacterial growth, but when you cook it, you definitely want to cool it a little, room temperature, but put it right in the refrigerator. So if you put it in the refrigerator, that should retard most of the growth. And remember, we're just loaded with bacteria anyway. So as long as it's kept refrigerated, you really shouldn't have an issue with that. And same as anything else you put in the refrigerator, like any resistant starch. So you've probably heard, everyone knows about probiotics, right? So if you think of your gut as your inner rainforest, your inner garden, you have to tend to it. Or you can think of it as a fish tank. You go and buy all the fish, right? But then you have to buy fish food. You have to feed them. So if you want your good bacteria to be nice and healthy and constantly, not getting overwhelmed by more bad bacteria, you want to feed them. And prebiotics feed your probiotics, right? So resistant starch has been found to be a really good prebiotic. They love that. See, the bad guys love sugar, but your good guys really enjoy this resistant starch, meaning it's not fiber. It's not as far as fiber that's going straight through you. You do digest it, but you can't use it all, but they can. So if you're eating for the trillions, you want to make sure you eat things like the taro, the parsnips, and all of these things. If you look online, you can boil it, you can bake it. Exactly, all of these root vegetables. Think about all the root vegetables as a resistant starch. I wouldn't say carrots just because of the amount of sugar in them, and beets have a lot of sugar, even though they're good in other ways.
Thank you. Here, Kat, hi, thank you. I have a two-part question. One is about the starch, because what do you think about just using starch, like either organic cornstarch or other starches, as a supplement in the smoothie? And number two question, last time you spoke about a lot about drugs and supplements, and I wanted to ask you what you think about low-dose naproxen.
Is it LDN?
Yes.
So on the starch, corn starch, if you are trying to stay away from lectins, corn does have a lot, and you could, other types of starch, you know, they actually sell jars of prebiotic powdered, you know, the taro, the sweet potato, things like that, so you can take it in powder form. But don't forget that if you actually eat the vegetables themselves, you're getting a lot of phytochemicals and things that we still don't know what's in, all the things that are in vegetables and what they do. So I think it's still a good idea, you know, even if just once a week you bake up a bunch of root vegetables and throw them in the refrigerator, and then you can throw a chunk into your drink rather than powders. And I do not know enough about the low-dose naproxen to, I'm not an expert, so it's not a good question to ask me. I know about a lot of things, like the dasatinib and quercetin and NAD plus and all those things, but there are people better equipped to answer those, too.
Okay. Me. Hi. Hi. You are so lovely to look at, and I love your accent. And yes, you're really beautiful, and I love the way you speak, and I think that talk is wonderful. I learned things, and I've been in the room, so I think it's perfect. So what I wanted to say is the fasting thing. I still don't know, when you're fasting, is it really you can't eat anything? Not even a little tiny piece of chocolate? Is it just water? Period.
Okay. All right. Well, yes, there is that very famous chocolate fasting diet where you don't eat anything but chocolate and water. But so here's the thing. Really, when you are fasting, the true fast truly does have to be a water fast. It has to be, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to trick your body. You're trying to make it believe, you know, the feast or famine. You are trying to make your body truly believe that there is no food coming. And so after a day, you know, the first day your body's just going, all your cells are going along doing whatever they do. But suddenly a day goes by and they say, whoa, hold on. Is food coming in? You know, we need it for our energy and for everything we do. Suddenly a little more time goes by and they come to the realization that nothing's coming. So what do we need to do right now? We need to mobilize the forces, okay? We need to, so any zombie cells, senescent cells floating around, damaged proteins, anything that's extraneous, anything that's blocking what we're trying to do, we need to keep only the really healthy cells right now. So that's what autophagy is, your body clearing out. And you can force it to happen when your body believes that it's not getting sustenance. And stem cells can be released. You know, it's kind of like batten down the hatches. We don't know when our next meal is coming. We don't know when it's coming, so we need to prepare. So about 36 hours in, your body starts this big preparation and clears out a lot of the junk. And so that's why if you eat anything, oh, I'm gonna have just gonna juice a little green drink. Your body says, oh, we got something coming in. Everybody can calm down. We don't have to, you know. So that's why it needs to be water. But one very important thing, please look it up if you're ready to do a water fast, if you haven't done it before, because you still need potassium, sodium. You still need some electrolytes. That's why sometimes during a fast you get a headache. Your body is needing those things. And luckily, that will not take you out of the fast. So you need to look it up. What I like to do is when I'm fasting, I take like a big mason jar and I'll put some Himalayan salt, I'll put potassium, and also, have you ever seen the colloidal silver? For $10, you can buy a big bottle of Now brand colloidal silver. There's about 20 or 30 minute amounts of different minerals, and pour a little capful of that, because they say that almost everyone is deficient in minerals. And so throw a little capful in your drink, in your green drink. So I will put that in, make sure I'm kind of hitting everything, and I'll fill the jar up with water. Don't drink concentrated, salt water. And then just sip it throughout the day.
Great presentation. Yeah, I think it's really great. I know I couldn't say what to leave out, like you asked in the beginning. I think everything you said was very valuable. I have a little bit of a technical question. So I cook my starches like sweet potatoes and rice the day before, put it in the fridge. But then, before I use them, I warm them up again. And a few months ago, I read on the internet that if you warm them up again, that you lose that effect. So, and then I did some more research, but there was no definite answer that I could find. Maybe you have a definite answer. Can you warm them up again without losing the effect or not?
Okay, so remember that you went down the rabbit hole. You can find anything on the internet. It's almost fun sometimes when you say something ludicrous and someone says, that can't be, oh, I'll look it up, I'll prove it to you right here. So you probably read someone put that down, but if you've ever taken a chemistry class, you know that when something changes chemically, right, you heat it a little bit, it's not going to change back. So while again, this is one of those things. This is why there's a new diet book every week. And there can be, because there's so many different schools of thought. But in my opinion, I think, yes, you can heat it, and you're not going to change those characteristics back.
Hi, Kat. After you spoke last time, I went home and threw out all of my terrible toxic candles. Because I'm thinking I'm laying in the bath, I've got a candle going, and I'm breathing in fumes, so that doesn't really work at all. And I threw them in the trash. I didn't take them to work to put out in the kitchen for someone to take, because I didn't want to give away chemicals. So
good for you.
So, thank you. So I've just got three. Number one, can you drink herbal teas while you're on a fast? Like if you're drinking water, but can you drink like a herbal tea with no calories? Can you do that?
Mm-hmm. On the internet, I'm sure you will find some places that say you can. I would not do it. I wouldn't mess with it, because remember that herbal tea is still coming from a plant.
Right.
And since we really don't know exactly what's going on in our body, there's so much we don't know now with the microbiome. And did you hear this? The vagus nerve that goes from the brain down toward our gut. They say that there are a certain number of neurons going this direction, from the brain to the gut. There are 9 times the amount of neurons going from the gut up to the brain, right? So is what's happening up here really in charge? I'm thinking that this whole little trillions of inhabitants might actually be in charge. And so because of that, we don't really know if you have herbal tea where they might say, oh, yep, here we're getting something from a plant here. So I just wouldn't mess with it, because we're not absolutely sure.
Okay, thank you. And 2 other things, makeup, like not so much the skincare, because I use skin like creams from the health food store, but actual makeup, what I put on my face and lipstick and eyeshadow. I think Suzanne Summers has got some toxic free, and the other one was hair colouring. I colour my hair myself, And do you have anything, suggestions for any organic hair colour?
There are a couple of brands of organic hair color. I've done research on everything from hair color to makeups. So I said, if it's something that I use, I hunted for the equivalent. And I've bought a few things up. This wasn't the equivalent. You know, this, but then I finally would find something. Ooh, this works, and it's organic. So there are a couple of brands of hair color. And if you look on the internet, let's say you go on Amazon and you look at the reviews, you'll find where some people say this just isn't working, it's not depositing color, it's not lasting, but some do. And I've talked to people where I can tell you later on, 2 brands that look like they are non-toxic and they still do the job. So that's the thing, is look at every single thing you use, and you really can find an alternative if you hunt.
Susan, if you need recommendations, I've got a lot of information in that area.
Thank you so much. So when can we start taking the diacetyl and quercetin or whatever,
So
however you pronounce
the
it?
dasatinib.
Yes,
The
that's
dasatinib
right.
and the quercetin. Some people might have seen Bill Falloon just sent something out talking about a company that is providing the dasatinib. Now, quercetin you can just buy right now. It's just it's like a flavonoid. It's you can buy it as a supplement. But the dasatinib is prescription only. There are a few different companies doing that. There's a company in India right now. Anyone here know James Clement? He did a trial with dasatinib and quercetin, and I asked him, where did you get your dasatinib? And he said, out of a place in India, but it's a place that, a trusted source, and the dasatinib coming from there is about 1/3 of the price of the one that you can get right now in this country. So you can actually, if you get someone to prescribe it, you can actually do it right now. And you can also talk to me later if you want, and I can tell you the current thought on what, the dosage, exactly how to dose it, and because you need to take it one time and then one time a week later, according to some sources. Everyone has their own. If you've looked at fightaging.org, Reason did it. The man that runs that site, and he tried a different protocol, which he liked. But you can take it now. You can get it now.
I think
I have not done it yet. However, David Kekich is going to get it from India, and I'm part of a group that's planning to do it this month. Yeah.
Oh. Sorry.
does IAS have dasatinib? Jim, do you know? Does IAS have dasatinib?
So IAS told me, Phil out of IAS in London, that they'll be having soon, they're supposed to have actually in a week or two here, dasatinib available for $99 a dosage. So, but we're waiting to hear back from them on that. And it's a very pure and reliable source. So we'll know more about that too. I guess the issue in Florida is that you either have to go to Florida, or you have to somebody prescribe it to you out of Florida and send it to you, right? That's the last I heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the what Bill Floon came up with.
Well,
so it is
the
available there, but it's
place in
$200.
India-
It's $200 in Florida, what I understand. Is that what you got?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And the place in India, as long as you get a prescription, you can order it yourself, and but it takes a couple of weeks to get here.
Yeah.
So it's just another anti-aging intervention, and you just have to decide as we go along There's been some interventions that friends of mine, that colleagues have done, and I've waited. I think I'll wait a little longer on that. So you just have to decide for yourself and talk to people that understand it so you can find out all the side effects, potential pros and cons.
Can you just comment on the FDA looking at aging as a disease, finally, and their first test trial is metformin?
Well, I know that Jim and Bernie were just part of that kind of Constitution, Bill of Rights plan, looking at a country, right, or a government finally, literally calling it a disease. But as far as the any current information, details about that, that's not my area.
Yeah, the only thing that the FDA is doing right now, the latest news I've heard, is that in the States, is that they're looking at metformin as the maybe possible first, age reversal or anti-aging drug, but they're not, I don't think, anything close yet to actually saying that, aging per se is a disease at this point. But it's progress to get study metformin at this time.
It's a significant precedent because by studying metformin, it's forcing them to start approaching this perspective of treating aging as a disease, rather than all the individual diseases of aging, treating it all together. Here's one.
Thank you. Great presentation. Can you tell me more about, I have heard about the difference between men and women doing fasting and how it's not very productive for women because it messes around with the estrogens. So 36 hours is good for a woman to do. And the other question is, what do you think, what are the cons and pros of nutritional yeast, and if the nutritional yeast affect the candida production?
Your second question is something I'm going to sit down and research because that's quite interesting, and I don't know, and I haven't thought about that, but that's really an interesting thought. Is nutritional yeast, which if anybody's done, I like to make the kale in my dehydrator and put the nutritional yeast so it makes kind of a cheesy snack. Is nutritional yeast contributing to the yeast in our body? We are loaded with yeast, right, as it is. So while everyone here has lots of candida, and because they're healthy and they have a healthy immune system, it's kept at bay. But let's say you were eating nutritional yeast every day. Could you cause an overgrowth? I don't know. And then on the first question, again, just giving my opinion, because we can probably find information both ways. But I think that the whole feast and famine, eating and not eating, is so beneficial to our bodies. I really would be very surprised if we were taking blood tests daily and we tested your estrogen levels, your progesterone levels, and I don't really see that the fasting state would cause any real issue. And even if your hormone levels went up while you were eating and went down while, I don't really think that's, our hormone levels are going up and down all the time. So I don't really see that the incredible beneficial effects would be outweighed by any change in hormone levels. So I think it would be just as healthy for a woman.
Hey, Kat, are you aware of a way to use the genomic readings, the personalized genomic readings, in a really applied, aligned way for diet and supplements? Because it seems like there's still just two separate. Are they still? Yeah, two separate things. You got an answer? You want to tell us now?
I'll just give a word out here. There's a company called Euphoria. It starts with the letter U, and they make a tailored product for our genetic biomarkers. There's a couple dozen of them that they address the SNPs. Anyway, ask me about it later.
All right. Do we have any more questions? Good. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Cat. Awesome.